On May 12th, Americans and Norwegians came together to rally in front of Stortinget in support of the U.S. Constitution and the rule of law.
Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right, so everybody's wrong. People speaking their minds, getting so much resistance from behind. I think we better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
The chair of Democrats Abroad Norway, Christina Skovsgaard, welcomed the crowd with opening remarks, and then Erica Gibson kicked off the speeches.
When I was interviewing my grandpa on what it was like to fight fascists in World War II, I never thought that 30 years later I'd be standing in Europe talking about fighting fascism back home in America. Now Trump and Musk are creating their own Gestapo in the US, infiltrating federal agencies, illegally collecting and amassing data, and using this information to target and punish their perceived enemies. So what can we do to stop this? First, if you're here and you're an American, contact your elected officials. Put pressure on them to act and hold DOJ and the Trump administration accountable for their illegal actions. Make sure you're registered to vote. We're going to hear from other members today talking about the importance of voting this year. If you're not an American, you may be wondering what you can do to help. One of the main ways you can help is by voting with your feet and how you spend your kroner. Choose local products over companies or brands such as Tesla that support and fund the current administration and their cronies. Use your voice today so that, unlike me following in my grandfather's footsteps, future generations won't have to repeat history fighting fascism. Thank you for listening.
It's got to stop. What do? As Erica said, first thing to do, register. If you're not registered or you don't know you're registered, register now. Go to your local election office and find out if you're registered. Call and write your senators to make sure the SAVE Act never sees the light of day, because it saves nothing other than from being able to exercise your constitutional right to vote. Trump and the Republicans want to go back to the good old days of the 1950s when Black Americans were prevented from voting by poll taxes and literacy tests, or maybe to the late 1700s when only rich white men could vote. It's your power to stop that steal. Benjamin Franklin said upon the signature of the signing the Constitution, it's a republic if you can keep it. Let's keep it. Thank you.
Outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah.
Here's a lesson, or one of the many lessons that I learned. One of the things that seduced me when I was a young man about the far right was this idea of both sides. We should hear both sides, shouldn't we? That's a vital element of open inquiry and free discussion in a liberal democracy. But I eventually learned there aren't two sides to every issue. There aren't two sides to racism. There aren't two sides to anti-Semitism. There aren't two sides to homophobia and transphobia. There aren't two sides to fascism, and there aren't two sides to Donald Trump. There is no serious legitimate defense of this administration. And that's why it has to lie every day about everything it does. What we as Democrats and decent people need to do is to build an alternative culture. We have to signal to any MAGA voter who has even the slightest hesitation, or maybe young voters who are new to the situation, that if they want to leave, another world exists outside of MAGA.
And DEI just in case you're a little unsure, it really asks 3 questions. It asks, who belongs, who benefits, and who still has to fight just to be seen and heard and treated with dignity. It has absolutely, positively nothing to do with political correctness. It's about human dignity. It's about fairness. It's about repair. It's about building a future where everyone gets to thrive. Because justice isn't just national, it's global. So we're really not just standing here in the shadow of history, we are shaping it. Civil rights didn't begin in America, DEI is not an American export, and equality is not a trend, it is a human right. We are the legacy and the architects of what comes next. So whether you're protesting today, organizing tomorrow, or casting your vote across the oceans abide, your voice still matters, and the world is watching. Let's rise together.
So I came here to talk about the defense of truth, justice, and the rule of law. The current state of American law and justice is that there is justice for some. But if I can quote the late, great Richard Pryor, there is no justice when there's just us. Okay? And let's think about the power of the vote, but the power of the vote especially locally. What if we were choosing our municipal judges? What if we were choosing our school board, our county sheriff, our city council members, and state legislative representatives? What if we were choosing them? Well, you know what? We can. Raise your hand if you vote locally. God help us. I wish every hand was up in the air because I believe, I don't have any concrete data on this, but I believe if we, and I believe we as Americans living abroad are much more active in political awareness than most Americans back home. So if we were to get active and actually have an influence on what happens locally, I believe that will bring about the biggest change for our day-to-day lives. Think about it.
Wikipedia will tell you that Norway has the world's second oldest working national constitution in the world. Heil Norge! Yeah! After the Constitution of the United States. After just 4 months with Trump and the Republicans in office, Wikipedia may need an update. I haven't mentioned how Trump has been ordering, bullying, and effectively bribing law firms and political figures to join what amounts to a protection racket. I haven't mentioned how he's been dismantling civil rights measures and effectively moving the country towards racial resegregation. I haven't mentioned how he's been taking away civil rights protections from trans people. I haven't mentioned his needless, clownish antagonism of our friends and allies and his single-handed, unforced loss of 80 years of American global dominance. I haven't... The global dominance crowd are here, in fact. Thank you for coming. I haven't mentioned how he's gone out of his way to undermine investor confidence in U.S.-backed Treasury securities. I haven't mentioned how anyone, anywhere in the world can seek to purge this influence with this administration simply by investing in Trump's meme-coined cryptocurrency, basically a difficult or impossible to track means of personally donating money to Donald J. Trump. And you all saw the news yesterday about the new airplane he's getting, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe this explains Trump's agenda. Maybe his affection for Norway has gotten to him. Maybe he's gotten into his head that America's run is over anyway, and that it's time for lille Norge to take over as the country with the longest running constitution in the world. It wouldn't be the craziest explanation for Trump I've ever heard. It's at least not half as crazy as thinking he was sent from God to lead the United States into a new imperial golden age, which 20 to 30% of American voters apparently believe. And also, that, just on a note for our Norwegian listeners here, most Americans are very commonsensical, very decent people. When you look at what most Americans want, you will always see the polling, you will always see there's somewhere between 65 and 80% who want good stuff, who want stuff that's, actually could be mistaken for what we call here in Norway, sosialdemokrati. They want money out of politics. They want higher taxation of the wealthy and the big corporations. They want universal health care. They want to secure a woman's right to abortions. They want, good schools, all the stuff that we take for granted here in Norway, most Americans want, including Republican voters, believe it or not. So just keep that in mind as we move forward, that, people, even the guy on the other side, even the guy with the Trump sign on his lawn he might be reachable because basically we agree about a lot of the same things.
We all know the importance of voting. So, as I wrote on the sign that I made, it's our future. Vote for it. We need to vote. I get so tired. I'm phone banking, and I reach people, and they say, "Oh, I vote in every presidential election." Well, let me tell you, the presidential election is important, but it is not the only important election. If you think you're off the hook in 2025, I want you to know that 47 states have elections this year. 47. You need to contact your friends and family back home, and you need to get them to vote. Because that's the number one thing we can do. The State Department says there's 4.5 million Americans living overseas. 2.8 million of those are eligible to vote. And yet in 2022, only 95,000 people actually cast their votes in the midterms. That's less than half the the membership numbers that Democrats Abroad has. And we can be the margin of victory. So write it to all your friends that you know in Norway, get a hold of them and have them vote. And I would like to end with a quote of Malcolm X. If you are not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being opposed and loving the people who are doing the opposing.
Rocks home to the pen, here in the fox, there in the fox, there in the fox, home to the pen, here in the fox.
Thank you to everyone who made this rally possible, and thank you especially to the Oslo Ukrainian Protest Committee.